Okay, committee reports, legislative update, Mrs. Shorter.
Yes. Yep, the House passed the House Continuing Resolution 35 by a vote of 95-0. So this bill would have invalidated the proposed amendments to Rule 3301-35-04 of the Ohio Administrative Code. So the proposed amendments to the rule would remove the requirements for a school to offer courses in personal safety, foreign language, technology, family and consumer science, and business education, and instead make it optional. So the Joint Committee on the Agency Rule Review voted to invalidate the rule. However, both the Ohio House and Ohio Senate are required to vote on terminating the rule. So the bill is now in the Senate for a vote. I think that's actually good news. I think that's one of the main things that I wanted to point out. There was one other issue that occurred with the State Board of Education. They passed an amendment. This was Amendment 13, and it was a resolution to promote academic excellence in K-12 education for each Ohio student without prejudice or respect to race, ethnicity, or creed. So the board previously had passed a resolution that they would consider equity in education at the top of the priority list, and they had a number of items that were identified. This was after the George Floyd incident. Since then, in a vote of 10-7, because there's been so much pressure over critical race theory, unfortunately the State Board of Education has decided to repeal that, and so their amendment now leaves the door open for, in my opinion, the Ohio's House and Ohio Senate to move forward with House Bill 322 and 327. So I reached out to the Board of Education and spoke with the member in Glendale. I can't remember her name, but we had a good, healthy conversation about whether or not equity in schools is something that is more pronounced if you're looking at poverty outcomes versus racial outcomes. It was a healthy discussion. We didn't fully agree on everything. However, I think that we've opened the door for a dialogue. So with this resolution being passed, I expect that there will probably be more pressure for House Bill 322, which in my opinion is a censorship bill, and I'm going to pay close attention to it, because when the state legislature mandates to schools what they can and cannot teach about history on a racial basis, I think that's problematic. I think there's lots of issues out there that need to be discussed. Equity in schools is important, and history, regardless of whether or not it makes you feel good or feel bad, history is history, and we should not deny that history simply because we don't like the way it sounds. So I'm keeping an eye on those, because I think those will be, just colossal changes for K-12 education in the state of Ohio. And this has happened in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, one of the school board districts there opted to ban a number of books. And one of the books that they banned was a book about Martin Luther King. It was an illustrated children's book about MLK. That book was perceived as being hurtful, I guess, and that book was actually placed on a ban list, along with the book that talked about hidden figures. These books were placed on a ban list in the interpretation of the state law that the state legislatures passed. And so I am very concerned about the direction that our legislature is going. I will say that after pressure and after a tremendous amount of outrage, the school board did decide to put those books back in the curriculum, but they were actually pulled and deemed to be too racially divisive. And so I'm keeping an eye on the bills here, and I think it's important to just bring it to your attention that this is what's happening at the state level. And it definitely could have an impact, a huge impact if those bills are passed. But are there any questions about that?
Any questions from Ms. Shorter? Well, thank you. Thanks for keeping us updated.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, the next item is the Butler Tech update, and I'll just tell you that tomorrow is Partnership Day with Fairfield Schools and Butler Tech. They will be coming to Fairfield High School, meeting with staff, and just talking about the different options that are available to students. And it's been very successful with the other schools, and tomorrow is Fairfield's turn. Yesterday, Butler Tech opened its CDL training site. They applied with the state of Ohio to be able to administer CDL testing exams, and they got that permission. And so what that does, students that graduated from the CDL program would have to wait between 4 to 6 months to be able to take their license exam, to be able to start driving a truck. And now that Butler Tech has their own training site, we're going from 4 to 6 months down to about 3 days. So after 3 days after graduation, drivers are able to get their CDL exam, and once passed, getting right into the workforce. And of course, probably most of them will head out to the West Coast when all those ships come into port, if they ever come into Los Angeles. But it's, I think they said there's like 72,000 CDL truck drivers in the state of Ohio, about 1.7 million truck drivers in the country. And so that's a great asset for Butler Tech, or a great opportunity for our adult education students at Butler Tech. And then the last item about just touching on Butler Tech, the culinary students actually cooked dinner for the Butler County Township Association's annual dinner that was held about a week ago at the Butler Tech campus, and they had 60 officials from across the county all came, and the culinary students did an amazing job of cooking dinner and serving dinner to all these about 60 officials. And congratulations to them. They did a great job. I think the 3 words I heard most from the county officials were amazing. So the kids did a great job, and congratulations to them. Also, one more thing, the Natural Science Building, the footprint is now all poured, the foundations are all poured, and so it's taking shape, and hopefully that is still on schedule to open next fall for students. Any questions on Butler Tech?
Mr. Birding, I got just a comment. Last meeting you commented about offering welding classes after hours, and now the CDL. I think it's really commendable for Butler Tech to open the doors to the trades end of it that way, and serving so much purpose in today's world right now specifically. So I just commend them for doing what they're doing.
Yeah, the evening classes probably originally to start with are going to be geared more towards senior students. When I mean senior, I don't mean elderly. I mean 12th graders. Ones that did have the opportunity to get into the class, their first choice for the normal day hours. Hopefully we'll open it up. I think it was like police and fire and welding, and I think IT was another one, but more information to come once we get those things on.
A lot of seniors are working, going to school, doing some other activities, so I think it's just great that opportunity is available for them.
Yeah,
so
definitely looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
All right, any other questions? Okay, Planning Commission, Mr. Begley.
Planning Commission did meet last week, several items on the agenda, but nothing of significance to the school district.
Okay, great. Student achievement, Mrs. Gundrum.
Okay, tonight I wanted to talk about 2 of our high schoolers. Andrea Udosin, she received academic honors from the College Board. In order to do that, you have to have a GPA of 3.5 or higher and have excelled at the PSAT, or earn a score of 3 or higher on 2 or more AP exams by your junior year. So that is a big deal. And then also Gabrielle Lefevre, she has been named a 2021 National Merit Commended Scholar, which means she scored in the top 3% on the 2020 PSAT. So very excited for both of them. Those are really amazing feats.
Kudos to them.
Yes.
Any questions from Mrs. Gunner? Okay, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Clark.
I say you get the fun report, but I might top you a little bit here, although students are always amazing, of course. If you have not checked out the parks in the Fairfield area lately, go. The weather's nice. Go visit some of these parks. Elijah Morgan, they have remodeled some things out there. They tore down where the little patio was. I've got rid of that and put in about a 40 by 40 concrete patio. They're going to install an overhang, so you don't have to rent a tent. If you have a banquet or a wedding reception or a party there, it's going to house up to 150 people there now. They're talking about putting another walkway around that park, and don't tell anybody this, but they're looking to put another dog area, not like the fur park, but an area where dogs can run loose over there, because some folks are using the soccer field for their dogs to run, and that's okay, but might do another little area there for that. So Oakwood Park, which is off of White Oak and Jupiter, they're putting a path in that park too, and that broke ground this week. So just like they've done at Harbin Park with that 1.4 mile, they're going to put one of those bike path, walk path, running path around Oakwood as well. So that actually started this week. They broke ground on that. Harbin Park, they're going to start breaking ground soon for the new playground for the kids, and that's hoping to be done in April. So all this has to do with the grant that we got the city got for the parks, about $750,000, and we need to use that before June. So there's a lot of activity going on, which is going to benefit the city and all the parks, of course. And what this does for the parks, it allows more of the community residents to go there, be there, of course, which may keep some of the riffraff or some of the anyway, the neighbors and residents will be more comfortable being there, even in later dates, later time at night. So a lot of great things going on in the parks in general. So check out your local parks. And then lastly, the Parade of Lights is going to be on again this year. So we did this 2 years ago, and it was cold and wet. Last year we did at the Harbin Park, where the floats were in place. This year we're going back to the parade itself. So it is going from, so it'll start at Sacred Heart and will end at Village Green. It's at November 27th, 4 to 7 p.m. So the parks is, I'll read this from Tiffany, the parks director. It's not too early to start thinking about how to light up your float for 2021. The Parks Department is seeking participants for the eye-catching event. We are looking to include art and culture, organizations, school, community groups, city departments, businesses, and more, with illuminated floats, vehicles, performances, and much more. You can go to the website at fairfieldohio.gov, and you can register there to be a part of that parade. So it's going to be outstanding, I can tell you.
Great.
Yeah.
Any questions from Mr. Clark?
I do have a comment. Just, that's a nice segue into me telling the board that, hey, we're all registered for the Parade of Lights, making the assumption that the board wanted to continue that tradition. And I know that Angie, Neal, and Matt Crapo have already been putting some tentative plans together. So very excited.
Well, we have to defend our title.
That is correct. We do have to defend our title. I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clark.